Welcome! Today we have an exciting time because we're going to be ranking basically every single training tool there's out there for rock climbing. We're starting things off with board climbing. Basically that I assume entails anything that's, moon board, tension board, kilter board, all of the standardized boards, and maybe your home woody. I personally would put board climbing at the top S tier, by far best tool you can use for training for climbing. It's not necessarily like, the thing is, it just encapsulates everything. It's good for finger strength, it's good for core tension, it's just good for climbing technique. Maybe for competition climbing, we have a separate topic, but yeah, for rock climbing and for proper training, board climbing is at the very, very top. Next one might actually match board climbing. Strongman training. I'm kidding, it's an absolute D tier. I have tried strongman training a little bit and it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Like, you're carrying stones and you're lifting massive logs, and while I think the base idea from it could be worth pulling into climbing, which is like raw power, the actual way that they do it is they try and just gain like as much of everything as they possibly can. And while I am an advocate of gaining muscle to gain strength for climbing, I don't think you need like the things you need for strongman training, which is just pure beastness. So it's a D tier, unfortunately. Let's take a quick break from this tier list and chat about Rugny, because Rugny is giving away a full year supply of Magdust every single week with the release of this new channel, and it's a big celebration, of course. All you have to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment, and you'll have a chance to win that full year supply. And remember, this goes for every single weekly video. Next up, we have yoga. Yoga is like, it's good. It's not a bad tool for climbing. It's just not necessarily. It's like, it'll help your climbing, but a lot of things will. So I'll put it in the B tier, which is kind of generous. It's between C and B for me. Some people will swear by it, and I think if it's easy for you to do and you can have it into your training routine, it's a higher rated tool. But with most things in training, it's more about you being able to be consistent with them and being able to do them regularly, rather than what the actual training is. And then you have board climbing, which is just better than everything. But yeah, yoga, B tier for me. Campus board is again, like the campus board for me is one of my favorite tools, but that's from a personal perspective. When I hop on the campus board, I know I'm getting my reps in. So personally, it's an S tier. But more objectively, as a training tool for climbing, it's between B and A. I will be generous and put it in the A tier, simply because it's very structured. Like, you have pretty specific things that you're doing for your training and goals that you can progress on, which is one of the most important things. And it's fairly easy to squeeze into your sessions without it being like a hassle. Next up is the crack trainer. I have to be honest, this one is kind of hard to have in here, because it's like, if you're training for crack climbing, it's a great tool, but for everything else, it's not great. So it'll get the C tier. It's definitely like really fun to train on, so you get pretty bomber sessions in. I think crack trainers are great for gyms to have, because it's a fantastic tool for playing around and learning new skills. It's just that I probably wouldn't regularly use a crack trainer unless I was training for a very specific crack where I needed like a specific size. So hard to argue that it should be high up on the list, but it's something that every gym should have, and maybe you should have one for your home wall as well. Edge lifts. So this is part of finger strength training, right? We have a few different ways that we can train our fingers. We can do hangboard hanging, we can lift edges, and we can do, of course, board climbing and regular climbing. I think edge lifts are somewhere in the B tier, I would say. They are very measurable, which is one of the most important aspects to any form of training. You want to have it be something you can progress in and you can see that progression. It's actually the one downside I have to board climbing, is that you usually do board climbing with grades, and grades are chaotic. Edge lifts are not. You can either lift the weight or you can't. One issue I have with edge lifts is that unless you're very, very deliberate with which edge you're using and how you're using it, you can't really compare different edges so well. Like a 20 millimeter edge isn't a standardized edge. It'll be different from every hangboard out there. Even within the same brands, they can feel quite different. And it also depends on like how you shift the edge. So with some of these edges, you'll have it so that it's kind of leaning against your pinky, and you're lifting more with your pinky than your actual fingers. So edge lifts aren't fantastic, but they can be a good tool to help you measure your progression. I can't really read it. Is this sniper training? Finger grippers. Okay, that's not sniper training. Finger grippers are something I've never even tried, but there is some pretty interesting research on extensor training out there, and how it connects to grip strength and strength in general. It's gonna go in the D tier currently, but it has potential for future studies to make it more interesting for climbers. I've actually been considering trying these out for a little while for the grip strength competitions that I've done, because as far as I've understood it, there's a correlation between the squeezing strength when you have like these dynamometers and the extensor strength. But I don't think it's valuable currently for climbing. I have no reason to believe so anyways. Finger curls. Ugh. I have done a fair amount of finger curls in my days actually, and I think it's a good exercise to help you feel a bit of pump and help you get that energy into your system and work your muscles. The difference between a finger curl, which is when you take an edge or a bar and curl your fingers upwards, is that I personally feel a lot of engagement from the stretching and the contraction of your muscle and then the extension of it again. So it works your muscles more than your actual tendons. Now the question for rock climbing is your tendon strength the weakness, or is it your muscle strength? And in most cases it'll be the tendon strength, which means that these kind of contractions that you're looking for in finger curls might not be ideal. I'm no expert. I shouldn't say like, oh, this is something you should or shouldn't do. I do them when I warm up almost every single session using like a stretching band and curling with an edge. So I do regularly use them and will put them in a B tier because they are still something that I regularly use. It's just that it's hard for me to argue like, oh, you should be doing your finger curls, because I don't think it's particularly valuable for the strength training for most people. 4x4s. This is like the most basic bouldering exercise in the world, in a way. It's been around since I started climbing. I think it could be the first exercise I ever heard of in climbing. And it basically just means you pick out 4 boulders and you do all of them in a row and then rest for a few minutes and repeat that process, usually 4 times. So generally the level will be around your flash grade or slightly below per boulder, and you should be able to complete every single boulder in that list in the, subsequently of each other. It's just, I personally don't know, like it's really good for just fitness training as a climber. It makes you feel like you've done your workout, which is quite good because a lot of us are just kind of sitting on the mats talking shit with our friends, and this actually makes you do the training. When it comes to adaptations and all that kind of stuff, it's more specific than anything. Like if you're doing 4x4s, you should be doing them for a project or for a specific climb rather than just for the gains, because the gains are very specific to 4x4s. But again, I still think it's a valuable exercise. I have regularly done it over the years, but it's not something that's in my tool belt of every session I'm making sure to do by my 4x4s. I would say it's a very good exercise for people who aren't particularly disciplined with their training and just want to have a good time but still kind of feel productive, but not for those who might be able to get everything that they have intended for their training done. So it'll be a B tier. I'm getting a lot of B tiers here. It seems to be I just think everything is average. Max hangs. Max hangs are solid A tier. I prefer max hangs to edge lifts because they're just so structured. You have your edge in your gym and it's going to be very consistent how hard it'll be to hang on, and it doesn't move. It's not as portable and it has a bunch of downsides in the sense that it's just there in your gym. You do need a hangboard set up at a fixed point, but I still think I've noticed the most progressions in my max hangs more so than I have in my edge lifts. That being said, I think having portable edges are incredibly valuable for making sure you get your training done wherever you are. So especially if you're a rock climber who spends a lot of time in nature, it's incredibly beneficial to have some sort of edge that you can bring with you to sort of pull in different directions. But for the purpose of training and understanding your progression, max hangs are more of a favorite tool of mine. Next up, weight vested climbing. I did a video where I actually had a 20 kilogram weight vest on for a week. It was completely awful, and I got over, like, I was so messed up after just 8 days in it. I think it's somewhere in the C. No, I'll still put it in the B tier, because if you manage it correctly, I think there's a great potential to training in a vest. I just think I haven't ever done it enough to figure out what that right amount is. I think like if you added 5 kilos, maybe, it could be very beneficial. I added 20 and that was horrible. So my experience is between B and C, but I think like between B and A could actually be where it's at if I did it more regularly. The problem and what we're noticing with all of this is that there's so many different ways to train for climbing, and none of them are right or wrong. It's just they have different advantages, and generally with any form of training you're doing, be it rock climbing or gym training, it's good to vary your training. Like if you do the same things for 10 years straight, it would have been much better to vary it once every other month. Like if you're doing bicep curls, that's great, but it's better to first do bicep curls and then maybe do like hammer curls, or just rework how you're training your arms, and not do exactly the same type of bicep curl every year in, every year out. It can be good to do even pull-ups for your biceps, just to get some different type of adaptation in there. And the same goes for climbing. Variety is a key. Luckily, regular climbing gives us a lot of it, but it might be worth squeezing in something else here and there as well, and a lot of these training tools have their merit. Classic gym training, A tier. That's a solid A tier for me. It doesn't go up to the S tier, because if you did a bunch of gym training and went rock climbing, it wouldn't really benefit you so much. But I use gym training as a supplemental form of training for climbing, more so than probably any other tool. And that can be in the form of pull-ups, it can be in the form of deadlifts, it can be in the form of just pump and iron, doing those bicep curls. And I have personally always found it to be a very solid way for me to make sure my physique is as solid as possible, and make sure I'm in good connection with all of the different body parts. So the deadlifts is probably the best example of it, where I feel like my posterior chain just gets connected, and it makes it so much easier for me to keep tension on the wall and get a lot of power output. But yeah, I'd say that if you're going for hypertrophy, so like 30 seconds of activity in your workout, around there, it's maybe not as beneficial, but for strength and power, gym training is up there for sure. Hand gripper, I'm just gonna toss in the D tier right away. I mean, maybe there's some sort of benefit to them. I have had a few of them over the years, and they end up in the bin, kind of. I don't understand what they're like. It was a thing when I started climbing to use hand grippers, so I bought one, and it's just been dog shit. Like, I don't see any benefit. Hopefully I'm wrong someday, because it'd be fun to see a new tool like that just pop up again. Just climbing is the next one. Just climbing hops into the S tier for sure. I've always said that, like, to become better at climbing, the thing you need to do is climb, and it's definitely the truth of it all. I view training and training tools as this sort of pillar, where you have something that's at the core of it that you should be focusing on and making sure that you get the highest quality of training from. And in my case, and for climbers, that should be climbing. Board climbing is the specific version of climbing, so they go into the same category for me. I think if you were focusing on competition climbing, the vast majority of your training should be competition moves, trying to figure out what's there and applying that. But they're all just climbing, so kind of being in the same frame. The one thing I'll mention is that specificity and being intentional about your training will help tremendously also. So with climbing, for instance, if you're just climbing as hanging out, it means hanging out on the floor, chatting with your friends, then yeah, no, just climbing won't be at the top. But if you are intentional, again, you're focusing on the board, for instance, and you're doing specific climbs on the board, that will help you, guarantee you that. So it's a broad word, just climbing, but if you're doing it accurately and intentionally, it's for sure the most S-tier type of training for climbing. So redundant when I explain it for so long, but it's like it's true and it might often be forgotten. All right, next up is TRX. C tier, solid C tier. It's a good tool. There are coaches who can help you with the TRX a lot, I think, in terms of exercises to help supplement your climbing with. I just haven't really used one consistently ever. I've used TRX bands or TRX things for like when they're around and I can't climb or do anything else really. But they're a little bit, I don't know, I just don't get particularly motivated by them, nor do I see big gains that help my climbing too much. But there are a lot of exercises on the TRX band that will help you. It's just you need to be very well aware of what those are for it to be worth spending the time on. Projecting. This goes into the just climbing category for me because, like I talked about earlier, intention with your climbing is more valuable than just climbing. So if it's board climbing, that's one way to intentionally work with your climbing. Projecting is a way to intentionally work with your climbing. And for me, that's been probably the most beneficial thing I've done in my climbing. The thing is though, with projecting, if you were just doing projecting, you'd probably not get sufficient adaptations over a long period of time. So projecting helps you, it helps me tremendously with motivation and staying psyched for training and staying psyched for progressing as a climber. So I have a bunch of projects that I've worked on over the years and they help me just climb more because I get really freaking obsessed. But yeah, no, it's for sure one of the top end tools for me. Goes into the S category. Next up on our tier list is the tread wall. A tread wall is a wall that rolls around and treads, and it's completely useless for me. It's for me that's a solid D tier. I'm sure someone has used one for endurance training and it helped tremendously, but it's just one of those things that's like you're doing the same moves over and over again, and I would find it very hard to be inspired by a tread wall. And there's so many other things you can do in climbing that I feel would go above that for training. Because the problem I have with it is like, you have a fixed speed, right? Like when you're moving, the tread wall is gonna move with your weight, or you have it set to a certain speed, which means that you're not gonna be climbing in a natural way. You're gonna be forced into climbing a specific type of movement that might not be perfect for you. So I feel like it would require immense analytical capabilities to be able to use a tread wall in a way that actually benefits you as a climber. I always also say that with every move you do as a climber, you're progressing like incrementally as a climber. So every move you do in a way that's not natural for you is gonna maybe take you a step back instead. And the tread wall is the perfect example of where I think that would happen over and over again. You'd be practicing a movement pattern that probably isn't suited for you over and over again until you become like the worst type of climber you can be. So I think it's pretty shit, but that's just my opinion. If you like using it, it might be good. Weighted pull-ups for bouldering is definitely almost at the S tier. I'm gonna put it in the A tier, but I would say for me, weighted pull-ups is the one gym exercise that's been the by far most beneficial one in my gains. I mentioned gym exercises before, and a lot of them help, but the weighted pull-up is like the holy one for me. It's just such a great way to build your power and build your like over capacity as a climber. And the thing is, when you have over capacity, when you're stronger than the thing you're trying to climb, you're gonna be able to apply so much technique on the wall So basically, if you have more finger strength than you need and more power than you need, you're going to be able to climb the boulder better than somebody who didn't have access to those strengths. Because the problem with like high-end, or basically your level of high-end climbing, so if you're a V6 climber trying to do a V8, is going to be the limitations in your climbing. You're not going to be able to apply any form of technique if you don't have the power or the finger strength to actually climb where you're trying. And it makes it so much harder to learn. So if you have a little bit of extra in your baggage, like a bit of extra power and a bit of extra finger strength, it's going to be so much easier to progress. So yeah, it's in the A tier, because you can still definitely do really, really well without weighted pull-ups being at the edge of your skill set. Twice a day hangboarding. I feel like I'm gonna be kind of partial here. I'll put it in the A tier, simply because for me, it's been such a game changer for finger health and also temporary finger strength. And I say temporary because if I stop doing it, I notice my finger strength quickly diving downwards. With max hangs and other progressive overloads, you'll see that finger strength stick around for much longer, I believe. But for me, the twice a day hangboarding is just, I'll guess I should briefly explain what it is also. It's a protocol that I posted about a few years ago that's gone pretty viral, and it basically means that I'm lightly loading my fingers 2 times per day. I'm gonna be honest, I generally do it once per day, because the other session of it will be in combination with a climbing session. So it's more like once a day for me. That's the most honest way to put how often I do it. But yeah, doing it once per day helps me tremendously. Doing it twice per day helps me slightly more. So hangboarding every single day is between A and S tier for me personally, but I know a lot of people don't get the same benefits, and for them, maybe it's much lower. But yeah, I definitely think it's worth experimenting with and seeing if it helps. All right, that's our tier list. I hope you enjoyed me babbling about training for climbing. If you haven't already, subscribe and comment on this channel, and you'll have a chance to win a full year supply of the Mag Dust. They're giving it away every single week with the release of these videos, and you should be a part of that lottery. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in another video. Peace, folks.